you stupid or what? Last time you did this, you got the shit kicked out of you. Last time we did this, I was a kid.
Right, well, this scene is at the beginning because I wanted to start the film with something that you hadn't seen before in a film, but also to try and make it sort of fun and quite snappy, which is what the film's supposed to be. And I think the main thing was to film it in a sort of to make it feel like quite a big space. You know, like some of the shots here are quite sort of wide and quite long, and also the very first shot of the film, the one where the title card is on, is the screen has been, the sky's been digitised, so it's blue, so it makes it feel like it's hot. I wanted to make a film where it felt like a sort of more like an American sort of feel to it, rather than a sort of really grey British film, although some of it is grey because you can't help the weather. But and the other idea was to sort of set these boys, like these two, the two lead characters, Paul Nichols and Roland, was to make them so you know that they're really good friends. And obviously, if you're going to run naked for an estate together, you got to be pretty good mates, I suppose. And it was quite fun filming it for me, but not for them. I don't think. I think they found it quite, like, you know, running around naked on a council estate. I don't think it did their image of themselves much good. But when it's cut together, I suppose it looks fine. And also, it was a way to just sort of, you know, get the. I think credits were like a bit of a nightmare, apart from the director's credit, of course. But no, I'm joking. But the credits are sort of, you know, for me they're quite boring credits, and so you wanted to make them sort of not, you know, that they don't take up too much space and too much time and everything. And of course, when they're cut with all this running, they don't sort of, you know, fuck knows what I'm talking about, actually.
I'd love to get hold of that. See if I had a bird like her wrapped around me.
And I was trying to include, like these shots here, I'm just trying to include as many shots of the boys together, just so you become familiar with them as quickly as possible. And I suppose when you put characters all in the same shot, you sort of feel that that they've got a kind of relationship, rather than keep on using single shots of them. The single shots happen later in the film, but for the moment, I was trying to put as many triple and quadruple or double shots together as possible. Now there's freeze frames here on the characters like that, which I don't particularly like, but because there's quite a few characters to introduce, I wanted to, you know, just had to be clear about who they were and everything. And I know that it kind of feels a bit like Train Spotting or something at the beginning because of the title cards, but I just thought, oh, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, you know, you just got to do whatever you've got to do to sort of let the audience know as quickly as possible. And then here's the first single shot of the film there, or not, but and there. So the idea of that is so you know that this is a lead character, and all those characters there are kind of like the antagonists. But you just have to know as quickly as possible who your lead character is.
Right, slow down, Mia. Put the brakes on.
Calm down, Romeo. I'm only joking.
Well, I'm just saying, she's sweet, she's all over me.
Shut up, you fucking logs.
And those, see that five there, I consider them to be the sort of the up-and-coming little Brit pack of, you know, of sort of working-class actors and everything. Now again here, this scene's interesting because it was lit, as you can see all the lights there, they're very sort of, there's a lot of neon in it and the streets have been wetted down. And the idea with that again is to make it not feel, you know, I was trying to put as much colour into the film as possible all the time. And because I think one of the problems inherent in British films is they look really grey, and so to put as many sort of blues and yellows and greens, and you know, I think nearly every shot there's blue in it, or it's tinted somehow. There's some sort of neon light in it, I mean, just to give it a feel of like an American film or a European film. And actually, the whole concept of the film being so colourful actually comes from a book that I saw on a Mexican architect called Louis Barragan, who's dead now, but he was famous in the sort of the 50s and the 60s for taking old desolate ranches and filling them with colour. And I always saw sort of council estates, they're a bit like, you know, they're like the sort of the final frontiers. You know, some of the bigger ones, they're like kind of these really weird outposts, and they're very sort of desolate and barren. And so I thought of the idea of sort of transporting this really colourful kind of thing onto this place and make it feel really sort of like a heightened sort of reality, you know, although it is real because the characters are real and the dialogue's real and everything, and, you know, their journeys are real. But the sort of the colour is, you know, is kind of quite overwhelming. I think when you see it in the cinema, it's quite overwhelming. And of course, the other thing is the costumes they're wearing. Although again, the costumes are really sort of real. They're quite heightened, the colours, you know, they're all very sort of coordinated to sort of fit in with the backgrounds and everything, so it gives it a really sort of smart kind of uniform look almost. But then they are the natural costumes of what kids wear growing up in South London, all the sort of Stone Island and the Hackett and everything.
Bit late for you, ain't it? Nigger.
No, and in this scene here, where you got this Phil, you know, obviously Phil Daniels is a, you know, sort of old British face, and then, you know, in the next couple of shots you see Frank Harper, who's another sort of him there. There's another older British actor, and you know, I just thought it would be good to sort of mix young, up-and-coming British talent with the old British talent, and I think it kind of works quite well because I think the younger actors actually learnt quite a lot from the older actors.
Friends, when I get ya. Yeah.
Well, I'm going, and I.
Right, well, this scene is it's a sort of an important scene in the film because, well, for a start, it's the first scene where actually something serious is said, you know, and it's just, you know, up until this point, the first 10 minutes or however long it is, has been sort of fun and fast and sort of establishing the world and everything. But with this scene, you get a sort of sniff of what the film is about, you know, because this scene here is about the kid with a check shirt, Tommy, about him, you know, he's leaving to go in the army, and I mean, ultimately the film's about loads of different things, like every film is, but this film is about moving on. It's about the friendship between two boys and how one of them has to move on. And so one of his best mates is moving on in this scene, and his old man's giving a sort of drunken speech, and it's supposed to be sort of quite touching, but not even so much touching, but it just slows you down for a second and just makes you sort of think and maybe question a couple of things that are going on. And it's the first time that you sort of get a sense that the lead character, Paul Nicholls' character Charlie, actually has desires to sort of move on and maybe do something else apart from spend all of his life on the estate. And so, you know, you set up this sort of kind of feeling of community and everything, and a bit of history between some of the characters, which is what it's trying to do with these shots here. And you know, and you just get a sense that kind of these people have all grown up with each other, and here's one of them now, he's about to sort of go off and do something and try and better his life. And then you get a sense that the lead character is just sort of slowly starting to think, you know, what is he going to do with himself, what's he going to do with his life and everything. And there's also a couple of little sort of funny moments in it, and it's just a sort of, yeah, the point of the scene is to show that sort of the lead character thinks about more than just life on the estate, and also just to sort of, you get a sense of history with it. And I think, you know, it's important, well, for me anyway, you know, when you're making any film, is to sort of feel that there's history, that the characters have got history, because there's no history, you know, they don't work, you don't really feel for them and everything. Yeah. And also, you know, another thing here again, it's, you know, I was thinking about when we were making it, when I was writing it, was that, you know, was trying to make a film sort of set over the kind of a long, hot, boring summer, as Charlie's voiceover says in one of the opening scenes. And just to get a sense that, you know, there are parties going on in this estate, and, you know, everyone, they wear shorts all the time, and just to sort of, you know, kind of get the feeling there's sort of slow, easy music, and, you know, the curtains are sort of breezing gently in the background, and just trying to get that kind of feel. I mean, I think that stylistically the film is supposed to be, I mean, whether it works or not, but it's supposed to kind of feel like an American 70s film in an odd sort of way, just in the sense that, I mean, there's great films like, you know, Big Wednesday, the John Milius film, and Last Picture Show, the Peter Bogdanovich film, Midnight Cowboy. You know, you just see these great sort of American films that are made in the 70s, real sort of classic sort of buddy films, and this is unashamedly a buddy film, I think. You know, it's trying to be a buddy film about, you know, Charlie and Justin. Yeah, and I don't think, you know, I've not particularly been subtle, I think, in the way that it is a buddy film. Although the difference is it's trying not to be so obvious at the beginning. You know, I think part of the way the script was written is so it doesn't, you don't kind of know what the character wants, and sort of slowly you come to learn what he wants, rather than saying in the first 10 minutes of the film, this is what the character wants and what's going to stop him from getting there. Which I think is that's the very kind of obvious Hollywood way of doing something. This is trying to be a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more subtle, and just so you're kind of working out as the character's working it out. Of course, the only problem is for audiences, you know, some audiences don't want to have to do any work at all. Some audiences just want to sit there and be totally entertained for an hour and a half. Whereas this is trying to sort of make you think a little bit more as the characters are thinking.
He'd always be there for me.
And there you get this sense, you know, with Charlie and Justin, you keep on most scenes, they always end up with the two of them together in them, and you just get this sense that these are the two boys. This is what the film's about. It's about their friendship and how it's going to sort of metamorphosise and how it's going to evolve and everything. You know, I think it's hard. I mean, the film's not based on my life, but it's. I think it's certainly.
I'm not running a bloody hotel, you know.
You know, it's a film. It's hard to say, but it's kind of like, it's almost like any boy, you know, any boy of kind of, you know, any man, I suppose, or any woman, I don't know, fuck knows, but I mean, you know, particularly sort of young men can identify with the two lead characters, you know, and the fact that I think everybody at some point in their life, they've been in a friendship that's been probably destructive or just non-productive, and you just, you know, I think at some point you have to make those choices of like, I've got to move on here. And again with this scene here, you know, you learn history about Justin's character, and then why Charlie feels the way he feels about him is partly based on this, partly obviously because he's just his old friend, but partly because Justin is a sort of, you know, doesn't have parents, and although he's a hard character, he's a kind of a vulnerable character as well, and Charlie is sort of, you know, part of his dilemma throughout the film is going to be that he really cares about his best mate Justin because he is a vulnerable person, but also he knows that as much as he's vulnerable, he's bad news, like you see here when he just beats people up for kind of seemingly no reason at all. He just flies off the handle. But of course, Charlie knows why he's doing it, but it doesn't really make it all right. You know, going around sort of unprovoked violence, or even violence provoked, is not a cool thing. See, again here, I'm always keeping them in two shots as much as possible, and it was a very subconscious thing keeping them in the same shot all the time. But it's only later on in the film you get the big sort of single close-ups with them. But you know, for now, trying to sort of keep them in the same shot all the time, you just again, it's subconscious. You don't really notice it. You know, you wouldn't make a point of noticing it, but I think it just helps you sort of see them as a pair, as a couple, because you know, at the end of the day, he does call him his wife.
Ain't gonna fucking believe this, boys. Guess what? I'm gonna be a dad. I know, I can't believe it either. Well, say something then, for fuck's sake.
Good luck to you, mate.
Cheers, mate. Listen, I thought we could go out tonight. Boys out on the town, yeah? Go out, celebrate. Don't worry about a bit of dough.
I mean, it's interesting with this character, Danny Dyer's character, Franny, he's you know, he's trying to be like, you know, they've all got kind of like classic roles in a way, and he's like the kind of you know, Danny's character is, I'm sort of older than you lot in my mind, and I've got to be a man, I'm doing this sort of thing, I've got a girlfriend and she's pregnant, blah, 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 and you lot are just little kids, you know, so that's his kind of classic character. And Justin's character is the classic sort of anti-hero character. He's like the lovable rogue, and you know, I think at the end of the film, he's the character that kind of gets the kind of, you get the warmest feeling for in a sense. And then Paul Nicholls' character is the classic sort of, you know, insightful character who's sort of gentle and kind of can see what's out there on the horizon and sort of knows he's got to make a break for it at some point. So they're all very kind of classic characters, and I think what makes them individual is the fact that they're all on a South London council estate, and that they've all got their own sort of little idiosyncrasies and everything, and again, there's this little thing with chess running throughout the film, and you just get a sense that the fact that Charlie's good at chess and he helps his mum's boyfriend out playing chess, that he's got a brain. I suppose at that age to be good at chess is quite a thing, and to sort of be able to help people out playing that. And of course, throughout the film, there's this tension here between Roland's character, Justin, and Danny's character, Franny. There's a tension between them, and it's clear that they don't like each other. And it's almost like Charlie, Paul's character, is the one that's in the middle of all that, and this will pay off. Again, we're still setting up stuff that's going to pay off in the second half of the film. And the first half of the film was sort of designed to be more fun, and then the second half of the film becomes more dramatic. And I think part of the reason that it's done like that is because I think if you're going to make a film about a drama about young kids that are ultimately they're not particularly likeable a lot of the time, the way to get to like them is through humour. And so the first half of the film is supposed to be much funnier than the second half of the film, and then it's almost like pulling a trick on the audience in a way. Is you draw them into the characters by humouring them, and then actually it's at Hector, it's at Charlie's cousin's party that the drama starts to kick in, and you start to get a sense that things are shifting, and there's actually a deep friendship there, and it's starting to sort of waver and everything. But I think to pull that on the audience after the first few minutes of a film, to say this is going to be a really heavy film about two kids and their friendship, I think it would turn a lot of people off. And I think the way into the way to win any audience's heart is to sort of humour them and also give them quirky characters, just like this is Jamie Foreman, and he's called Tony Immaculate in the film, and he's a total oddball, you know what I mean, because he's a South Londoner, but yet he talks with an American accent and he thinks he's a cowboy and everything, and he turns out to be sort of quite a lonely, sad character a bit later on in the film. But at the moment you draw people into them by humour, and I think that's really important. I think a lot of those kind of great American films, they work really well because they're humorous, and then they pull the punches on you later of the emotion.
He runs around with a machine gun. Talking like that. You talking to me? You talking to me? Tell him, Charlie.
It's a do, innit? They all dress up like gangsters and have a party.
What for? It's a fucking fancy dress, that's what's for. What's he like? Where'd you get him from? Now listen to me. You take it easy in this motor. You hear me? She's double hot. Hot, stolen, just...
It's funny because this scene here was cut a lot, because in the scene Jamie Foreman's character does a lot of ad-libbing and stuff, and like all of these characters, apart from obviously Paul Nicholls isn't, but most of these characters are all proper South Londoners. They come out of Bermondsey and Deptford around there, and they, the script was written in a lot of slang and everything. There's a lot of rhyming slang, and they sort of go into all sorts of weird drawls and everything, and again, it had to be, a lot of that ended up getting cut out because you're trying to make a film that's not just going to be pleasing to people that live in South London. You're trying to make a film that's going to 60-year-old ladies are going to go and see it and sort of think it's very charming and sweet. But I think if you make too much rhyming slang and too much aggression, there was a lot of swearing in the film, but it's quite humorous with swearing. So, it's quite difficult because you're trying to sort of, you want people in South London to think it's an authentic film, but then, you're not just making a film for people in South London, you're making it for everybody. And there was another thing here, was about, shooting it in, the widest sort of lenses possible in anamorphic, what's it called, cinema scope, I don't fucking know what it's called, but it's this like really mad sort of, lenses and everything. And that was again to sort of try and lift, because I sort of grew up watching Mike Leigh films and Ken Loach films and everything, and I thought they were all fantastic, and Alan Clark and everything, but one of the things I always felt of them was they all felt very sort of small. And, shooting in widescreen was a way of trying to sort of lift it above the kind of the normal sort of feeling like low-rent little grey British films, to sort of give it a kind of more of an epic feeling. And, some of the stuff, I think, some of the cinematography is really great because, you're shooting in widescreen using wide lenses, and you know, you're shooting against big backgrounds and everything, and you do get a feeling of sort of space and everything.
Check the other room. Chris. Keep it, Justin. The man is fuck you. Wait. Go upstairs. Shut up, go upstairs. There's a fucking banging horse.
And this film, I mean, all this stuff is obviously filmed that night, and we, you know, I think the shoot of the film was 6 weeks, I think, and we did 2 weeks of night shoots, and they were really sort of punishing, you know, because you're shooting from like, you know, 7 at night until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, for 2 weeks solid, and you go home and all your curtains, you know, you've got blackouts on your windows and everything. It's really hard trying to sort of acclimatise to sort of, you know, sleeping in the day and getting up at night. But of course, I mean, I think one of the things I was most amazed at was the energy that I felt. I mean, I'm quite an energetic person anyway, and I drink a lot of coffee, but I think, you know, all the way through this film, I just never, I felt tired, but nothing ever, it never stopped me from doing what I was doing, you know, and I just felt like I was flying. And it was really weird, because I think it was probably the first time in my life where I felt really happy, you know, when I was so absorbed with something, so sort of obsessed with like one particular thing that I didn't think about anything else. And like a mate of mine died while we were filming, and I was in trouble with a tax man and blah blah blah, all the usual fucking things that happen. But it just didn't even bother me. I was so sort of obsessed with this. And also my marriage had fallen apart. And I mean, there's so many things, but you know, they just didn't matter. And the kids, I mean, they are kids, you know, ultimately when we made the film, they were all teenagers, you know, and they were really, you know, they were amazing how much energy they had and how sort of up for it they were, and they were like, you know, not that we did a lot of takes or anything, but they were up for doing stuff and workshopping stuff, and, you know, they were really great. Here's an interesting little thing, that guy there who plays Duke, the black guy, we sort of cast him off the street. We were trying to look for the biggest, fattest black guy we could find. Honestly, he's pretty big and fat and black. But so we sort of found him on the street, and you know, he was like, he did the film and he was really happy to do it, and he obviously got a few quid, and he was good fun with the boys and blah blah blah. And actually, when we were editing, I was looking through the News of the World one, or some paper, I don't know what it was, in the middle of the edit, and I sort of saw a great big picture of him in the paper, and he just got 12 years in prison for torturing some geezer. Him and his mate had tortured some bloke, and they got found guilty, and they were doing 12 years. And you know, he turned out that he was absolute nutter, the geezer, but of course we cast him in the film as a big softie, ultimately, because you can see a bit later on, he turns out to be a bit of a div. And also, you know, when they were filming, the kids, all the teenagers, they were kind of all taking the piss out of him about his weight and everything, and he just sort of took it on the chin all the time. But it turns out he probably could have killed all 4 of them.
Get down, it's the gathers. Dan.
That's this scene that's been shot here, the one at the traffic lights. That was when I wrote the film. I didn't originally write it for me to direct it. I wasn't a director. I mean, I was just a writer, and I was writing it for someone else, I suppose. And then the notion came about. Someone suggested that maybe I should direct it because it was a very sort of personal story, and it was quite hard for other people maybe to access it. But this was the first scene that I saw in my mind. Don't know why, but I was looking through the script and I saw this scene as like it is here, you know, this scene is the scene with the police officers is very unreal because time slows down and, you know, the lights stay red for a lot longer than they should, and everybody moves in slow motion and everything. And, you know, so it's very stylistically kind of filmed, that scene. But it was the first scene, and I remember how I wrote it down on a piece of paper, you know, shoot the traffic lights changing at 36 frames per second, and shoot the reactions of the police looking at like 48 frames per second, and make it all slow down, and then put some really sort of dreary music over it, like some Hawaiian music, and I just imagined that the scene would be quite funny. And of course it turns out that, you know, when you watch it in the cinema with a big audience, you know, that they find that scene really funny. they find it funny because of the characters, actually, you know, partly because of the characters.
It's all right, Tony Mackin, he loves a stereo, doesn't he? He sorted me out large.
I mean, there's, you know, the plot of the film is now starting to kick in at this point. You know, you've got the fact that Charlie's nicked the gun and he's shown the money in the kettle to his mates, but he's not shown them the gun. You know, you're sort of, you know, he sticks it under his bed, you're setting stuff up that is going to come back later, and you sort of know as an audience, you know that this stuff is going to come back to haunt them, and the fact that Justin left the photo card sitting on the table, you know that that's going to come back. You know, things like that don't get unanswered in films, unless they're sloppily made, I suppose.
What are you doing?
Floyd's taking me on holiday. Going to the Dodo Inn.
What about me?
What do you mean, what about you? You can't come. Keep calling him rubber lips.
No, I don't. I ain't said it for years.
Oh, well, you'll be all right. You've got your wife to look after you.
Yeah, but I'll miss you, Mummy.
Oh, will you?
No.
You will. Come here, give me a cuddle. Oh.
Oh, that's sweet, that is. You're out of order, you are. How come I ain't going, eh? Eh? Sweet flush, no. Yeah, come on.
This came for you.
This is an interesting scene because, you know, I love the look of that. I think it looks really great in the cinema. It looks fantastic. It's sort of like bursting with colour, and I felt really sort of proud of this scene because, you know, I thought, how do you shoot a conversation, three kids having a conversation about how bored they are, and make it look vaguely exciting? You know, because boredom is a hard thing to film without it actually being boring on the screen. But, you know, so there was this great big wall, and I just said to the production designer, you know what, let's paint this wall blue, and you know, just get the boys to lean up against it and sort of give them the mirrored glasses and everything. And I just think it's got a really sort of nice feel about it, you know. And I felt sort of really proud of sort of creating that out of nothing, you know, because, you know, when you're sitting in a big cinema, the audiences, when they see the colour of that wall, they're almost like, you know, because it's such a sort of overwhelming colour. So then you can see it all the time, you know, all the garage doors have been painted blue and everything, you know. We design so much of this stuff ourselves, just so it doesn't feel like a Mike Leigh film. And there's nothing wrong with Mike Leigh films, by the way. They're good.
It's a she, and she don't stay on her own, comprende?
All right.
Oh, you, look up this, mower.
Cost you £1.
Fucking pan? 50 pence.
£1?
Hey, little hombre.
You notice there's two Millwall strips in this scene. There's the home strip and there's the away strip on Justin.
You keep your eye on my little
Millwall beat Norwich 4-0 yesterday, by the way. Saturday.
Don't fucker scratcher either. Good boy. Hey, how you doing, Charlie?
Hello, Tone.
What's happening, man? All right, mate. Yeah, good, yeah. God damn.
And, you know, another interesting thing here is the sort of the comedy, you know. You know, like I said, that the first half of the film is sort of supposed to be, you know, funny, but it's funny in a sort of odd kind of way. You know, it's not slapstick humour, and there were sort of opportunities for much more slapstick humour, and I really sort of avoided it. I made the humour much more sort of ironic and sardonic, you know, much more sort of deadpan humour, and the humour comes out of the character and the situations as opposed to, you know, throwing wet fish at each other. Not that it's actually funny, but it's much more about the kind of the stupidity of like what the characters are doing and sort of how they're reacting to stuff. And it's an odd kind of humour because when you watch the film right the way through with like a big, you know, like a big audience, like 8, 7. I mean, I've sat in a couple of cinemas, you know, where there's been like 800 people all watching it, and when they you know, some things obviously they belly laugh out loud, and it's kind of nice to see that. But a lot of the stuff, you know, you smirk at it as opposed to really roar with laughter, and I find that humour much nicer. I mean, I think like the Coen brothers are probably a really good example of filmmakers who their films are funny, but they're not like Ali G funny. They're not obviously funny, you know. They're very cool in their humour, and I was trying to do more of that with this film, and they're just like little moments where the characters sort of look at each other, and you just, you know, you laugh because you know that's how they would look at each other, and you can relate to it.
Where'd you dig him up from?
Son, I'd have to be a raving mug to give you more than a one for this. Do I look like a mug? Or do I? Well then, shut your fucking noise. I mean, that's it. A one. Take it or leave it.
Take it.
Okay, there's a little tiny bit coming up here with Tony, this character, and Charlie, and again, it's like a chuck away little thing, but subconsciously what you do get is a sense of history between the two characters, and the fact that Tony knows Charlie's mum and actually wants to fuck her. You just get a, you know, it's always about cramming history and history all the time. Just just leading the audience to believe that all of these people here that have known each other for like 2 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 days at sometimes because they're just actors getting together on a film. It's just to give them a sense of history that they have known each other. They've all grown up with each other. There's a couple of shots here as well, just talking about this. They're like that, trying to give it a bigger scale, like shooting on really wide 25mm lenses, just so it doesn't feel flat. I think there's a right at the end of this little sequence, there's a shot where you really see the kind of it's really quite wide and quite a big vista, which for a council estate is quite a hard thing to do, and it's almost like you've got to shoot on wide lenses so you there. I mean, you get a sense of sort of size and scale there, which is quite nice.
Can I have a fag?
Aye?
Can I have a fag?
Ah, the love interest. The classic love interest. It's interesting, this whole section with Danny Bear, who plays Blondie, who is like just, she's the sort of the brief love interest of Charlie. Now, that was, I think it's funny because in the film, I think you notice it's underdeveloped. It's the one part of the film that doesn't feel kind of natural, and of course typically it wasn't in there at the beginning, and it sort of got wrote into the film when people started getting involved to finance the film. They wanted to see a love interest, but for all different sorts of reasons. People said it could be misconstrued as a gay film if they don't fancy girls and stuff because they're all just boys and all they do is spend their time together, or it could, you really alienate audiences and stuff. So there's all sorts of different reasons why the love interest sort of got wrote into it, and I think nothing to do with performance. I think she's great in it, Danny, but we ended up cutting bits of it out just because they just didn't fit comfortably in the finished film. And because we cut bits of it out, you're left with a kind of a couple of scenes with her. I mean, there's the very thing at the very beginning, the scene right at the beginning, and then there's this scene here, and there's one more scene with her. And because of that, it feels like an underdeveloped strand in a story. And so it's a shame, really, because she's really nice in it, and her character's really nice, and she's just a really nice kind of amiable kind of woman. And you get a sense that he's aspiring to sort of bigger things because he's actually trying to chat up a woman than just trying to chat up the young birds on the estate. And also you get a sense of when he leaves at the end of the film, he's leaving more stuff behind. Do you know what I mean? He's leaving his mates, his cousins, the place, his mum and stuff, and also this girl that he's sort of arranged to have a frisson with. But actually he wants to fuck her. Plot.
What is it? What, you think I was born yesterday or something? We all know this ain't real.
Ah, of course it is. The second-hand sweeping, mate.
So what? That don't mean
This was the
nothing.
very first scene that we filmed
I tell you what,
of
I'm gonna take it down like a pepper crop
this was our first day of shooting, so obviously the whole thing was shot in kind of weird order and everything. I mean, it's difficult for the actors, I think. Suddenly you're shooting a scene and you've got to know exactly where you're at, and it comes, I don't know, 35 minutes or 40 minutes into the film. In fact, I remember the editor, when he saw the rushes of this, the first night's rushes, he came up to me on the set the next day and said to me, and I said to him, "How's it going?" He said, "Well, you're not covering enough. You're not covering enough angles, and one of your lead actors is weak." And he was talking about Justin, Roland Manukian's character, who's actually like he's like the surprise strongest performance in the film, and he's the thing a lot of people remember, which is kind of quite classic of the anti-hero. So he says to me that he says, your actor's not good. Anyway, so I nearly fucking knocked him out, and I said to the producer, I said, I've got to get rid of this geezer, he's fucking driving me mad. And he said, just give him a couple of days. And of course, you know, I felt confident that I'd cast the right person for the part, and that in that particular scene he was supposed to be weak, because actually it shows a side of him. He doesn't want to fight everyone. Actually, he does come unstuck a couple of times, and so that was the point of it. Anyway, me and the editor made up, and we got on famously after that. But we had a little moment there. I mean, I was under a lot of pressure, and when someone comes up and says you're not covering the scene well enough, and one of your actors is shit, you start getting a little bit worried. I suppose he was only doing his job.
We should go through one day, mate. Just get away, do you know what I mean? What do you want to go somewhere else for? I don't know. You think too much, you do, that's your problem.
Oi! I know who you are.
Fuck off, you old bag!
And you can stop laughing and all. I fucking know who your mother is. And don't think I won't fucking go round and tell her, because I fucking will.
She's a good old actor in the door.
Look, there's Janet and Kay, look. Where? Look, there's Janet and Kay, look. I don't say anything, Josh. But Janet! Janet!
I mean, this is some of this I really like. This kind of little section here, up until they go to the party in a couple of minutes' time, is really good, because you can really, on the page, it felt a little bit flat, and then you're trying to convince people that this is going to work when it's actually being filmed, and sort of, you know, you get a few sort of suspicious eyebrows raised at you, but you know, when it is on the screen, it kind of works, and it's kind of got a lot of humour, and it bounces along and everything. In fact, this whole sequence here, in this underground car park, this was probably the hardest day of shooting, and actually this scene turns out to be a really good little scene. It's very funny and everything, and it works, but actually out the back there, it's pissing with rain out the back, and you just can't see it because we blasted a lot of light in there, and so it makes it feel like it's kind of sunny outside. And we were sitting around in the rain for like 4 hours waiting for the rain to go, and it wouldn't go. So the producer comes up to me and says, listen, we've got to find a location, we can't sit here all day shooting nothing. And I was like tearing my hair out, because I'd storyboarded this scene and kind of to be outside, and I had it all worked out in my mind, and suddenly to be told that you've got to go and sort of make it up on the run, it was like terrifying, you know. And I felt really I felt like I was going to have a fucking nervous breakdown. I felt really under pressure, but you know, it's sort of, and that's the good thing about the collaboration, is like, yeah, everyone working together. It's like, don't worry, it'll be all right. And the DP came up with some good ideas, and the designer came up with some good ideas, and the producer came out with loads of good ideas, because he always had good ideas, because he was a good producer. And you know, it actually turns out that this scene's really funny, and it's helped by the two girls, because they're really great little actresses, and they're full of mouth, and you know, but you can just see it kind of, it works, and it's, you know, kind of got a lot of humour in it.
You and your boyfriend walking around like a pair of fucking bum boys? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You can shut your mouth and all, you fat fucking bastard. And don't look at me like that, or else you get a fucking slap, all right?
Janet, calm down a minute.
Oh, fuck off, you puff. I don't even want to know. In fact, all three of you can fuck off. Yeah, fuck off.
Women, eh?
What do you want to do? Do you want me to give this back to Tommy if he comes home again?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Sweet, mate.
I hate this fucking place.
Oh, well, everybody's heard about the bird.
This is the first time that the boys go off the estate. They're going out to Charlie's cousin Hector's party, and it's the first time they actually leave the estate. And so it's kind of filmed, it's like hyper, you know, and the character that they go and see, Hector, Charlie's cousin, is really like he's like a very animated character, and partly because he's taking drugs, he's an animated character, but also partly because this thing that I really want to do is the two boys, Charlie and Justin, is that they're very sort of rooted in reality, they're two characters, but all of the older characters they come into contact with, like Jamie Foreman's character Tony Immaculate, Richard Driscoll's character Hector, Phil Daniels' character Eddie, they're all larger than life characters, and part of the reason for that was to show, it's almost like it's like the boys' perspective of them is the fact that these are ultimately, they're teenage boys, and they see the world as a big sort of animated place, you know, outside the estate they see the world as a big sort of scary world, and so the the characters are photographed as really fucking nuts and sort of, you know, hyper, and you know, I think you sort of get a sense in the film that it's seen through the boys' eyes, you know, and it's like they're looking at this great big house and everything's like massive and sort of shining, and there's so many great cars, and there's Hector, which Richard Driscoll. He's a very interesting guy, Richard Driscoll, because he was in EastEnders as the vicar and stuff, and he was sort of totally miscast in that. And you know, I know that when I because he's a pal of mine, and when I wanted to put him in the film, you know, there was a couple of sort of not suspicious eyebrows like he can't act, but like, well, you know, is he going to be good for this particular part and everything? But of course, because I know him, I know he could sort of do this really well. And you know, in some of the reviews and stuff, he's written, you know, he always gets a sort of special mention as an outstanding kind of like over the top, you know, kind of madman. And I think it's really good because he's a really ugly character. Although he's got everything, and this is what the two boys are seeing, you know, particularly Charlie. He sees that this guy's got this massive house, and there's birds floating around everywhere, and there's champagne and bugle everywhere, and he seems like he's got it all, but the fact that his personality is so wretched, you know, even to the point that because he's cracked on, he's made a few quid, he's decided to call himself Hector, and he's lost his name of Paul. So just shows kind of what an idiot he is, and it's really good because Charlie can sort of, you know, because he's offered the opportunity to go and work for him and go and sort of live with him and everything, and again at the end of the film it's one of the things he says no to. And this scene is like the turning point, if you like, in the film. Although it's done quite subtly, it's the turning point because it's the first time where Charlie and Justin fall out. Like they're, you know, in this scene here, they've started to fall out, and it's basically because Justin can't handle himself outside the estate, and he's out of his depth. You know, he's mixing with older people, he's at a different sort of party, and he can't handle it, whereas Charlie is at ease with these people and he can mix with these sort of people. And so you start to get a sense that things aren't okay between them, you know, and they don't really make up after that. You know, of course, as you know, at the end of this scene they have a big fight and everything, and they don't make up from this one, you know, where for the first 40 minutes of the film they've been bickering and everything, but they always seem to have a laugh about it. But it's like, you know, it becomes different now.
Come here a minute. I want to show you something.
Fine line.
I mean, this is a fucking madman, this geezer. But again, it's good, you know, he looks like a total lunatic because he's got the lardy and the syrup and everything, and he's a very sort of animated character. But what's interesting is his dialogue is very normal. You know, when he starts having a go at Charlie in a minute, it's very normal. You know, he's asking the sort of normal questions. So they're really weird characters because they act and look bizarre, but they speak very normally. And I always thought that was quite an interesting thing, was because you don't know whether, you know, you don't know how to box them, you don't know whether they're sort of real or unreal or what. And this scene here is obviously, you know, it's the scene in the film where, you know, where the older cousin says to him, like, you know, you got to get a grip of yourself and fucking pull yourself together. And then this is where he offers him the job and everything, you know.
What? What's the matter with you? What?
All you do is say what all the fucking time. I'm asking how you been.
Paul, I've just told you I'm all right.
Don't call me fucking Paul. Call me Heccy. Don't you fucking laugh at me. Why don't you call me?
Hey?
I've offered you a job in a room in me gaff and you ain't
Again, the
even
design here is interesting because it's all very gold leafy and kind of expensive, and although you can't really see it behind Hector there, all those pictures are actually of him with different women. And it just, you know, just gives you a sense that this guy's very ostentatious and, you know...
That's right, he's a fucking loser. Come with me, boy, come and stay with
yeah,
me.
you know what, he's ostentatious.
I'm knocking out 10 gaffs a day to these city boys. I'm a properly Keiko Bako, know what I mean? Got the whistle, gooch. Got the trotters, gooch. Got the kettle, rolling.
And he's a show-off, obviously.
I'm entertaining gooch with an 911 in a garage, and it's only a fucking work car. No, ain't no mug, am I? Look. Come with me, boy. Do you want a bit of this? Come and stay with me. eh? I'll look after your family. Go and live a bit, eh?
This is one of my favourite scenes in the film. This was sort of made up, me and Jamie Foreman sort of made this up just before we started shooting it, but it's a really great scene, A, because it looks really beautiful and it's very sort of quiet and gentle and everything, but it's the sort of, it's the kind of moment where, you know, Tony, Immaculate, is basically saying to Justin here, he's asking him if he's all right. He knows he's a troubled kid and he's asking him if he's okay, and I find it quite moving, this scene, you know, but of course a lot of audiences misconstrued it, or, well, misconstrued it, but they sort of made their own mind up about it and thought he was trying to hit on him, like he was actually, turns out that Tony Immaculate's a gay guy. But so either way you sort of can, either way you want to play it, you know, the scene kind of works for them. But for me it was much deeper than that. And, you know, actually Tony very obviously says to Justin, I'm not queer. And he's just trying to ask him if he's all right. He's just trying to say, listen, son, I know about you, and I want to know if you're okay, you know. And Justin's reaction to someone trying to get close to him is to do what he does in a minute, which is to steal the money from him. You know, he can't handle the fact that someone is trying to be intimate with him, not sexually, but just on an emotional level. Someone's trying to be intimate with him, and he can't deal with it. And he gets out of the water. You know, Tony feels upset because he feels like he's overstepped the mark and he knows the kid's kind of misunderstood what he said. And, you know, it's quite a sad scene because Justin takes the money in this next shot there, and then Tony actually watches him steal the money, but he feels so sorry for the kid that he doesn't do anything about it. He doesn't confront him about it. He just watches him do it, and his face looks really upset and sad and everything. He just walks away. And it's a really, I think it's a great sort of kind of approach to the way two men try and relate to each other, you know, without wanting to be homosexual. It's just very difficult with men to sort of show intimacy with each other, and so, you know, it's all unspoken, you know, they can't actually speak to each other about it. And again, now you've got this thing about Charlie and Justin, and they're sort of, you know, Justin's bitterness really starts to sort of come through now, and he hates the fact that Charlie's having a good time and that Charlie's met this bird and Charlie's like been offered this job, and, you know, Charlie being the sort of character he is trying to say to Justin, well, you can come with us, do you know what I mean? You plot over here with me as well, you know, but he can't do it. Justin can't do it, you know, he has to be negative about everything. And it's like, this is where the rift in where their friendship is, you know. And of course the next 10 shots in the film show how they deal with the situation. It shows exactly how they deal with it, and this is how Justin deals with it, and Charlie deals with it in a very different way. I mean, for me, all of this, you know, the way Justin is reacting now is all as a result of the fact that he feels threatened, and so his way when he feels threatened is to steal money, try and touch a girl up, you know, do all these kind of really not cool things.
Jog on. Charlie boy, on your feet. You better say goodbye to your slay little mate. He's waiting outside for you.
What's happening? Nothing. He's a wanker, that's all.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come here. Get back here, son. What's the matter with you? He's only a kid.
Fuck him, he's
Come here, you.
This scene took fucking ages to film. We were there for hours trying to do this, but it works out fine. And again, it's like Charlie is given a choice now. When he starts to walk away, Hector says to him, where are you going? What are you leaving here for? And Charlie sort of does his thing which he's done before, when he looks to Justin, looks back to Hector, and he makes his decision, and that's that. You know, he can't let go of Justin at this point, do you know what I mean? And this is a nice little moment that Jamie Foreman came up with when he you know, he says to him, I know you nicked the money, but ask next time. It's just a nice kind of, it's a nice way to end the sequence. And of course, these two characters are both called each other a mug. They're so fickle, they end up putting their arms around each other and sort of walking indoors again. I sort of like the fact that they're such turncoats. Well, this is interesting about their relationship because, you know, still Justin can't see that Charlie's really pissed off with him. And of course it's very clear that Charlie is really fucking annoyed and that he's overstepped the mark again and he's ruined another time for him. You know, it gets, you know, you sort of get the feeling everywhere he goes, Justin fucks it up for him. I love that shot of Canary Wharf there. It looks great on a big screen. But, and this is, of course, where they have the fight. But you really, I think, you know, at this point it's good because you get this sense that they are like a couple, not in a sexual way, but they're a couple, they're inseparable, and this is what couples do. Well, that's what I do with all my girlfriends, I beat the shit out of them. I'm not joking, but, you know, when you care that much about someone, this is what happens, you know what I mean? If you don't care about someone, ultimately you have a row and that's it, you walk away from each other, but these two, they're like bonded at the hip, you know, they're glued and they can't walk away, so their way of dealing with their feelings is to start fighting with each other. And this is like, you know, it's almost like this is it now, you know, now the drama of the film is starting to kick in and there's very little laughs from now on. There's a couple of smiles and stuff, but the sort of the humour of bringing the characters together and seeing how they develop and just sort of watching them having a laugh and their antics and everything, that is now finished. And it's now, you know, the drama's sort of kicked in. And this scene here, it's a lovely little moment, you know, is Justin looking forgiveness. He knows he's overstepped the mark, he wants forgiveness. And Charlie sort of, you know, he's reluctant to give it to him by hugging him, but he pushes him away, and, you know, it's a nice little way. I mean, that's it. That's the end of the chapter, do you know what I mean? And now the second chapter, the film's in 2 chapters, the second chapter is much more serious. This is a great scene as well. I'm about fucking blowing my own trumpet. I mean, this scene's great because David Thewlis is such a great actor and he's got so much presence that, you know, everything he does, he just seems to... He's such a great way to start the second chapter because he brings so much gravitas to it, and he's such a sort of real... That's an actor's actor, I think.
Thanks, Dad.
And you just get this lovely sense at the end of this scene that this is a father and a son that just do not know how to communicate with each other. They do not know how to, you know, show their feelings. I mean, he's a father who's kind of, you know, doesn't really see much of his son, and when he comes to see him, his way of sort of telling him he cares about him is to give him a Swiss Army knife and a fiver or something, you know. And Charlie's in a lot of pain at this point in the film, you know what I mean? He's like, things are going badly wrong with his best mate. He's questioning where he's going, he doesn't know what he's doing and everything. You know, and all they can do is talk about football and chess and mum and stuff like that, you know, and you get the sense that what the meaning of this scene is what's not said in it. You know, what is being said is a load of bollocks.
Hector. Hector? Mug. You all right for money? I'm a millionaire.
And there's one little moment at the end of the scene, you know, where David says to Paul, he says to him, Charlie, I thought of that, meaning I thought of your name when you were a little baby. And it suddenly like brings it gives the scene the kind of weight at the end of it.
Oi, go light.
Who's this? It's my little mate, ain't ya?
No, I'm nearly 15.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Well, you're too young to smoke then, ain't you? Go on up it. On your bike.
Fuck off.
Oi! Oi!
kids, eh?
Yeah.
Charlie.
I thought of that. Do you like the knife?
Yeah.
It's got everything in it.
I knew you'd come round.
Yeah, this is Charlie going back to see Blondie again. You know, it's sort of feels like it comes a little bit out of nowhere, and the scene's been cut quite a lot. I mean, one of the things about this was the film, as all films do, I think, they take on their own organic sort of centre, and you know, it became clearer and clearer as we were editing this film that the film was about Charlie and Justin. That's what the film was about, you know. And I think when I first wrote the script, the script was more about slice of life on a council estate, you know. But as we went on, and the way that these two boys acted opposite each other, it sort of became clearer and clearer that everything was about those two. And so, as a consequence, there was quite a few scenes that we shot or that were in the script that aren't in the finished film, because I think, you know, what is the strongest part of the film, and there's loads of things that don't work about it, I think, but what is the strongest part of it is the relationship between Charlie and Justin. And so as we started editing more and more, it just became a process of everything that wasn't integral and essential to Charlie and Justin's friendship, then it was going to go. And of course, you know, Blondie was one of the main things that wasn't part of the kind of the bigger picture between Charlie and Justin, and so it had to go, you know. And there's other scenes, there's more scenes with Phil Daniels and Charlie that got cut out. I'm just trying to think, there was more stuff with all the boys together that got cut out, and you know, we just started scrambling as much stuff together of Charlie and Justin, just two shots of the two of them all the time, putting us, you know, and stuff that we'd taken out ended up going back in of Charlie and Justin because it was the most important part of the story. Here's another interesting scene as well. This was another scene that was supposed to be exterior and ended up being interior because of the weather. I mean, you know, trying to shoot a film that's supposed to look like a long hot summer in London is fucking difficult to try and achieve, and so, you know, we had to make the most of the weather we did have, and we jumped around quite a lot. But this was another rainy day, so we called in Danny Dyer, who happened to not be doing anything else that day, so we were lucky, and he came down in the afternoon and we lit this gym. And again, there's you know, you can see like there's loads of blue. We put all blue tints in everywhere, and you know, you sort of gives it more of a sort of an American style feel. I mean, one of the whole thing about the blue is I'm a massive Michael Mann fan, and you know, all of his great films like Thief and Heat and The Insider, and I mean, they're sort of like dripping with blue, those films, and they're really stunning sort of to look at. So I suppose I, you know, plagiarised a bit of that. But anyway, so this scene was, you know, we had to shoot it on the spin right in the last minute, and but these two have actually done a film Paul Nichols and Danny Dyer had done a film called The Trench together, which didn't work so well as a film, but these two were good in it, and which is one of the reasons I cast them opposite each other in these particular roles. And it was really great because, you know, you do, particularly these two characters, you really get a sense of history and the fact that they know each other, and you know, and this is the scene where obviously, I mean, this scene is the beginning of the end. By telling Franny that his bird has been fucking Phil Daniels' character, Charlie knows that he's going to bring a resolution to the story, that things are going to change after this, because you don't tell someone that sort of information without anything drastic happening. And so, you know, it's almost like the decision to tell him is his way of saying, I've got to get out of this place, and I don't know how to do it. I can't just walk away, so therefore I'm going to create a situation, a load of events that's going to like be ultimately mayhem. And of course, now the next, I don't know, it's probably 20 minutes left in the film. It's kind of non-stop now towards the resolution, and it's all about that kind of moment, you know, towards the end. I mean, I think there's a couple of parts in the film that, for me, they dip a little bit in pace, you know, they just slow down a tiny bit. But here, after the boxing gym scene, it kicks up a gear for me again, and you get into the drama of the boys, and it seems to it's got a real sort of potency for me.
Mum said he's still down like Crocodopoulos. Fuck this, I ain't looking all day. Well, come on, I'll do it for you. Yeah, all right.
That was a sunny day, obviously. One of the few sunny days. Actually, I think now, you know, the weather, this is how the film was always originally supposed to look. You know, there's just blue skies everywhere and sun bursting and everything. Look, all the clothes sort of look colourful, and it looks like almost like a really tranquil sort of place. You know, this was an interesting scene to film because I never considered myself, well, certainly never would consider myself like an action film director. You know, and this is, I suppose, the closest I've got, probably will get for a long time, to sort of shooting action sequences like stunts and car crashes and stuff. And so it was really interesting, you know, that I sort of storyboarded it really sort of detailed because I was nervous that I wouldn't know what I was doing, because I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. But, you know, it sort of works out quite well, and I think that, you know, it's quite realistic, the crash and everything. And actually, the crash is a stunt. There's a stunt kid, stunt kid, whatever he is. He's like, you know, Danny's fill-in, and he, you know, the car really does crash into him, and he really does go up onto the bonnet. And I just, you know, that's him there, and what up? I mean, look at that. That's fucking amazing. I mean, I'll tell you what, I thought they were going to be a dummy or something. I didn't realise actually someone was going to throw themselves onto the fucking car bonnet. You know, and it's kind of realistic. He's got a great face, Phil Daniel, I tell you. Real sort of cinematic face. Almost don't want to talk too much now because the film starts to take its kind of get its own life going now. I mean, there was quite a lot of this sequence here. There was quite a lot cut out because, again, it was more. There was a scene here that was between Charlie and Blondie, and because she works in the hospital. I mean, you see a shot of her now, but this was a whole scene, and it ended up being like 2 lines of dialogue, and then it cuts and just moves on because, again, at this point, the film was really taking on its own sort of life force, and it felt like anything that was too lengthy in it kind of was holding it back, and it was just an exercise of cutting and cutting and cutting and, you know, making it as sort of quick and swift as possible.
Everything changes because nothing can stay the same forever.
And there's a bit of voiceover here, and this is where sort of Charlie decides to take the law, if you like, into his own hands, you know, and sort of bring the resolution about. And I mean, he says in that voiceover, things will, you know, what does it say? Nothing will stay the same, things will always change. I never knew what happened was going to change my life, but it did. And so you get a sense of, like, you know, we're into the final. I don't know how long it is, but we're into the final sort of stages of the film. And there's a shot coming up here, which is my favourite shot of the film, which is this one here. It's slow motion. It's not too slow motion, but it's slow motion, 36 frames per second. And this girl pours the glitter on him, and she's dressed as an angel. And so it's conceivable that she's a normal girl, do you know what I mean, who's just throwing glitter at him, but it's got a kind of, obviously, it feels surreal because it's in slow motion, but the idea was that you can see the glitter on him, that he's like, in a really weird metaphorical way, this sounds like a real fucking wanker's way of making films, but is that he's been blessed, he's like the golden, you know, he's been showered in gold, and so he's going to be alright in a funny kind of way. Fuck knows what I'm talking about. It was just a nice shot, that's all. And again, it's all starting to get weird now, you know, like kind of the way the camera's moving and stuff. It has a much more sort of, and the way that look at that, I mean, it's like very surreal. is kind of the inside of Eddie's house. It's all a bit odd. Sort of, it reminds me of sort of some of Kubrick stuff. This kind of like Steadicam just floating around and like really just plain white walls and symbolism. What is it? Sort of shining, I suppose, in a funny kind of eerie sort of way. And again, history. Now we learn that Eddie's character was not just a sort of the estate bully. He's actually got a history. He was a Falklands hero, and well, he wasn't a hero. That was the whole point, you know. In his speech, he said no one came to fucking greet him, and you know. But we get a sense of kind of character. So I think with all of the characters in the film, it's important to try and give them all a sense of character, because, you know, the estate nutter is one thing and it sort of makes you laugh and you're slightly intimidated for a short amount of time, but it doesn't take long before you start thinking, all right, give me more about this geezer, you know what I mean? Fucking tell me who he is, you know. And so now is the moment where you learn about Phil, you know, Phil's kind of backstory.
Paris, coming off the Invincible at Southampton Dock. There was even a rumour that Maggie was going to come.
And also there was a moment right at the beginning of the film where Frank Harper, you know, Tommy's dad, the kid who went in the army, his dad said to Eddie, fallen comrades, and he just gives him a look. And that's all you know about it. But of course now it makes sense to think about fallen comrades, because you get the sense that they were both in the Falklands together, so they've known each other. So again, there's a bigger sense of history on the estate, that all the men maybe went to the army, you know, in the army at the same time. Most of them went down to the Falklands. And of course, there's another, again, very sort of subtle subtext of the film is that, you know, of course, Phil Daniels' character, he is the classic capitalist, if you like. You know, he's a debt collector. He goes around sort of collecting money off people, and he's a slag, basically. And, you know, a lot of the Falklands veterans and stuff, I mean, that was the first war I knew about when I was growing up. When they came back from the Falklands, they came back to nothing. You know, it's a bit like, it was like our equivalent of Vietnam. They came back from the war and there was no one to fight, and, you know, they were just walking around, these angry sort of like young men who had been shooting people down in Argentina. And suddenly they came back to nothing, you know. And it was in the wake of, because of course that was Thatcher's first big, sound like fucking Harold Wilson. It was Thatcher's first big sort of big number, you know, the Falklands, and that's what made her really successful, the Falklands, you know, the fact that she was the Iron Lady and she was very strong. And so obviously the thing is that Phil Daniels, his character, is a direct result of Thatcherism. He's the ultimate capitalist. He goes around just sort of, you know, taking money off people, which is ultimately what Thatcher's capitalists did.
But you can't do it, can you?
There's this lovely moment where, you know, where Phil Daniels tells Paul Nichols that you're not cut out for being around here, and he basically tells him he's a coward.
Now get out of my fucking house before me and you fall out.
Now this is kind of interesting part of the film as well, because obviously Charlie and Justin are sort of back together now for the rest of the film. But what was interesting about it was that we had a big there were lots of script discussions and stuff about, you know, the gun, which is Charlie's just about to give to Justin, is like, that's the MacGuffin of the film, the gun. That you know, MacGuffin is like, Hitchcock used MacGuffins all the time, you know, it's like the thing that sort of drags the story along, but actually it's got nothing to do with the emotional resolution, it's just a physical thing. And so, you know, Charlie giving Justin the gun is a pretty stupid thing to do, and he knows by giving him the gun something like that's going to happen, you know, because he's a loose cannon, the kid, you know what I mean, and he doesn't know how to sort of, he can't be adult with anything, you know. And of course, as soon as he gives him the gun, he starts saying he's James Bond and everything, you know, taking the piss out of it, and because he's a delinquent and he doesn't know how to deal with it. And so Charlie knows that by giving Justin the gun, something big's going to happen. And it's like, you know, Charlie can't do it himself. He's too. He is. There's an aspect of his character that is bold and everything. There's also an aspect of his character that is very sort of cowardly, and he needs Justin to bring the resolution to a head for him. He can't do it himself. So he allows him to walk away with the gun, right? Now the next scene, which is the one that comes up after this shot, is a direct result of what happens when you give someone like Justin a gun. This is what's going to happen. So just watch.
All right. Why you? Come over here a minute.
What?
What do you mean what? I said come over here now.
Back off, midget.
Sit now, you little mug. Sit now and see what happens.
Give a nutter a loaded gun, and what will he do? Stick it in the kid's mouth. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, the thing about all this, the toing and froing of the gun is all about he can't make the decision. You know, it's all about the complication of making the decision. And this scene that sort of we're getting to now is like, it's like the big scene of the film. You know, it's the big buddy scene. You know, where one buddy rejects the other buddy, and it's, you know, it's quite devastating the way he rejects him, and he basically tells him what a mug he is and what other people think of him and stuff, and how he's so tired of looking after him. I mean, I love this scene because it's the way it's photographed. It's like, it's really sort of beautiful and kind of, you know, golden and everything. And we got a lovely time of day, and obviously it was a really nice sunny day. It's really important for me.
What's the matter? Don't you trust me?
It just sort of, you know, you get the kind of the sense that the sun's just going down gently in the background, and it's a really sort of sad, kind of tragic scene.
Do you know why?
Why what?
Why you've only seen us talking. And why you've never met her. I didn't want you to meet her. Because I thought you'd embarrass me.
I wrote this scene. This wasn't in the original script. I wrote it in as we were in pre-production. We were probably 2 weeks away from shooting, and I saw how well the two boys, Roland and Paul, were getting on with each other and how well they acted with each other, and I just thought, you know, they could handle this scene, and I find it really moving, you know. I mean, I think everybody at some point in their life has either had this out with their friend, or I mean, I certainly had it done to me. You know, I'm someone that I was a good friend of, you know, turned around to me and basically said, I can't hang around with you anymore because you're a fucking nightmare. You know, and I know how painful that was, how much I felt that, and you know, and I think it really works. I mean, when I gave them the scene on paper, I'd written it down on like one sheet of paper and gave it to the two boys, and Paul started crying, and Roland said, "There's no fucking dialogue in this for me." And that was, you know, it was really funny. He just didn't he didn't understand at that point. But actually, when we came to film it, he had some sort of it was like an epiphany for Roland. I think obviously it triggered something really deep in him, and the tears he cries in this scene are real tears, and we actually had to stop filming because he couldn't stop crying. And so I think on a subconscious level, I mean, there's a shot here when he walks up the steps to him, and you can see he's really crying.
Fuck off, Justin.
And you really sort of feel it, and the music's kind of very, you know, it's got good pathos, the music and everything. And we actually had to stop filming because you couldn't stop crying, and it sort of woke something up in him, obviously quite deep. And you know, he ended up coming and staying at the house that I was staying in, and because I felt for him, you know, and we put him up in a spare bedroom downstairs, and I just felt for him because I think it was really an emotional scene, something for him to do, and I don't think he ever thought that acting would bring that up in him, but it did, you know. And then but you know, just to say that part of that scene, you know, where Charlie's given Justin the gun and said to him, "Take it and fucking do what you want with it," that is, you know, that is it. He knows he wants out, but again, he runs off after him because he's got this terrible sort of dilemma of the fact that he loves this boy so much. He's his best mate and he always has been, but he just knows he's so bad for him, and it's almost like what he wants is for Justin to say to him, "You can go now," without having to reject him. And of course that comes later, but you know, he just can't make the break until his best mate says to him, "It's all right, you can go, I'll let you go," you know. But he loves him too much, and he can't just turn around and tell him to fuck off. And so every time he tells him to fuck off, he chases after him. It's a bit like a sort of melodrama, you know. He keeps on running after him just to make it all right. But again, you know, here, when Justin shoots Eddie, Paul's character doesn't stop it. He lets him do it because he knows that this is the only thing that's gonna be able to do it. And he wants him to stop him. You know, Justin's character wants him to stop him, but he knows he won't stop him, so he does. He just goes ahead and He goes ahead and shoots him.
I was shot! The little shit shot me!
I mean, I don't consider myself a technical filmmaker, you know, all the shots and stuff. I mean, I like framing shot stuff, but it's not my strongest point, you know. I'm not like a commercials director. I think the most important thing for me is characters and the performances from the actors. That's the thing that I, you know, am most interested in a film. I mean, obviously I've tried my best to make it. Having said that about shots, there's a pretty slick shot there actually, and then we've got this big crane shot here. But you know, it's not like the film doesn't look like a pop video, and sometimes I wish it did in a funny sort of way. I wish I knew how to sort of direct the camera better, but it's just not my thing. But and this is like, you know, this is what is commonly known as the goodbye scene. You know, when Justin allows Charlie to go, and he's basically saying to him, listen, whatever's happened, it's all right. I know you need to go, and you can go, and it doesn't matter. I mean, he actually says it in 2 words, but
If we get nicked.
you know, it's a moving scene for me.
It's all right.
And then when he says to him, it's all right, you know, he means you can go. Don't worry about me. I'll be all right. I'm gonna be a hero in my own way. You know, you've got to get on and do your own thing. He's basically saying everything you told me in the scene on the steps is true.
Charlie?
Then, of course, here we have a replication of the scene after they've had the fight, coming back from Hector's party when he goes to hug him, and of course this time they do hug. So it's like textbook filmmaking in a way, you know, something that they couldn't do half an hour before, they can do now. And so, you know, I think again on a subconscious level as an audience, you get a really nice warm feeling of, oh yeah, it's going to be all right. And his grin here, I mean, Justin's grin, you know, knowing he's going to go, it's just so great. He's such a great actor, this kid Roland. What an undiscovered little star. I mean, he's going to be massive, I think. Love it with all the lights in the background, just sort of London just kind of dotted around at night, and that white light around, it's like a halo or something. And now we're into the end, the last sort of sequence with the Oasis song. I mean, that was a great thing that, you know, Oasis never give songs away for films, and then, but you know, we didn't have any money obviously, but we got managed to get Noel Gallagher to see the film, and he loved the film so much he just gave us a song for nothing, and it was really great. And he told a lot of people about the film, and you know, he's obviously, because he's quite influential, you know, he really put the word out, and it was really great. And also Robbie Williams to give us the song at the front of the film because he really liked the film, so it was good sort of getting that confidence. This is one of the greatest moments in the film, this next kind of minute here. You know, when he's walked off the roof, you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know how Justin's going to react to it and everything, but you see his reaction now. It's actually a total triumph. He's got this lovely grin on his face, you know, and it's just, what's really nice again, you know, that sort of came to me on the night as we were filming it, and I suddenly had this feeling of like, why can't you have 2 heroes at the end of the film? Why does one character have to have a really bad deal and one does why have to have a really good deal? But you know, in his own way, this was always his destiny. Justin's destiny was always going to be that he was going to be a bad boy, villain, thief, you know, prison boy or whatever. Do you know what I mean? He's going to spend all of his time in the shovel, and there's this look now just as the police car drives off, and it just, for me, it's just the most perfect ending for this character. And he's just grinning all the way. He's like, yeah, I've done it. I'm the man. I'm the new guy. And he's quick to tell the girls. He's like, look at that. I mean, I love this little smile there. It's just such a lovely moment with the Oasis music rocking away, and of course now Charlie's going to walk off into his own little sunset. But the point is that both characters got what they wanted in the end. You know, this guy wanted to get away from the estate. That's what he's done. Justin wanted to be known as a hero. He wanted to be an estate kind of hero. You know, he doesn't. The way his mind worked, he didn't want to sort of go off and do something off the estate. He wanted to. His life was the estate. He loves the estate, and so he was always going to stay on the estate. And he's now got what he wants. You know, he'll probably get 3 years for shooting. We've probably got 6 and do 3 for shooting the geezer and come back and be a total hero. And it's fantastic for him. And this is, you know, good energy to this end bit here as well, the running. And it was actually stolen from a Leo Carax film called The Night Is Young. There's a great sort of time, you know, I saw it in this film and I thought it'd be a really brilliant way. Gives the film such energy, and to end on a freeze frame like Loneliness for a Long Distance Runner. That's it, folks.